All right, another Josh cast. Another day, another Josh cast. Another day, another Josh cast. I think it worked out doing the recording the episodes on Sunday and then releasing them over the course of the week. That was nice. I missed recording it during the week. But on the other hand, it was a little bit less stressful to try to rush and get them out. I have no idea what you think about it, but hopefully it works for you too. Hopefully you can't tell the difference. Hopefully every Monday and every Thursday you got your healthy dose of Josh, which sounds like it could be a felony, the way I just said that. So, yeah, I just I see how everyone else is doing their podcasts. And they're doing really smart things like having guests on them or having specific themes. And what I don't see as much of is people just rambling with nothing, just starting with nothing and rambling for, nigh on 20 minutes. I'm not seeing a lot of those really catch fire. So maybe I'm an innovator or maybe I am... going down the wrong path. But the fact of the matter is I'm just not interested in interviewing people. I don't care what your opinions are. I want to force feed my opinions down your throat, and I want you to enjoy it. So that's where we are at with that. And I was thinking about, I've been watching... What have I been watching? I've been playing more video games than I have, specifically the first-person shooters. And I'm realizing that I think one of the reasons why I like playing the first-person shooters right now is because I can pretend to walk around in the world and not have to worry about COVID. Like Duke Nukem 3D is great because even though I'm being shot at by aliens, there are levels that take place inside restaurants. It's just nice to go into a restaurant. If I have to defeat alien scum to do it, it's fine. I'll do that for some sushi. It's been a year. Yeah, let's do it. So playing those, and I was also thinking about. Here's my other thought. I want to run this by you, see what you think. I was thinking about the Alien movies and how the spaceships in the Alien movies always look ominous and dark. Which, of course, makes sense because it's an ominous, dark movie series. And you don't want an Alien movie taking place on a ship that's pink with a lot of flowers. And a lot of floral arrangements and wainscoting. That doesn't feel right. Though the more I describe having an alien in that environment, the better that is. An alien in a ship that was designed with Edwardian British sensibilities. The starship George Bernard Shaw. The alien running around with an all British cast of characters. Oh dear, the alien's running around. The alien's it burst out of his chest, which was an incredibly rude thing to do at 4 in the afternoon. Interrupted the tea time. I feel like that movie would be a lot less violent, and they'd find a way to. I think they would shame the alien. The British captain would go, "For shame, sir! Unacceptable behavior," and the alien would apologize, and there'd be a tacit agreement not to kill each other. This is treading dangerously close to an Eddie Izzard bit. Sorry, Eddie Izzard bit. I've got to be careful. I've got to be careful. I want to be an innovator. I want to be a comedy innovator. That's why my podcast has no planning, no guests, no theme. Some people would call that a lack of anything. Just a lacking. But I call it forward thinking. I call it really sensing where we're going as a society. I'm having a pulse on the zeitgeist. That's what this is. That's what this podcast is. Pulse on the zeitgeist. The zeitgeist at this moment, there's a lot of Bernie Sanders memes because he was wearing mittens and wearing up and bundled up and huddled during the inauguration. And so now they took a picture of that and they're putting it everywhere and everyone's laughing. And they're all laughing at the old cold Jew. That's what that is. Laughing at the old cold Jew. Laughing at the old cold Jew. Laughing at the old cold Jew. On a cold day in January, we laughed at the old cold Jew. That's what they are doing. Oh. Well, the good news is, everybody, the good news is that there is a vaccine. The bad news is that there is only literally one vaccine. There's one dose. And 300 million of us, and there's discussion over, can we divide this one dose into 300 million tiny doses? Can you microdose the vaccine? Is that possible? Is that humanly possible to do that? Can that be done? And the virus might be mutating. This is going to go on for years, possibly. And I'm trying to make peace with that. I'm trying to understand what that means. I'm trying to learn to go with the flow of that. I believe it was Lisa Simpson quoting a Chinese parable. The same word in Chinese, I think, the same word of crisis. Crisis and opportunity are the same word in Chinese. I think that's what she said. And then the Homer Simpson joke was crisis-tunity. But I'm trying to figure out, what is the opportunity of this crisis? What is the opportunity to be had from this? And near as I can tell, it is that I hated parties. And now I can, instead of saying, no, I don't want to go to a party, I can say, I'm doing my civic duty. I'm saving lives by not being put in a situation where I have to talk to people about my 5-year plan. What else have I been watching? I've been watching Batman, the animated series. A great series. Rumors persist that they're going to bring it back, which would be amazing. And they said it in this, it was like this, this kind of fictionalized 1940s world, and yet it had modern technology, which was such a great design aesthetic. I loved how that looked. So you've got these, the cars look like they're from the 40s, but they've got cell phones and computers, and the Batwing is a jet, and yet they're still using Tommy guns. It's a really cool idea that I think that works. That would not work, for instance, if they picked another period. Like, I don't know how they could do that, but with the 90s. Does anyone know what the 90s? I grew up in the 90s, and to this day, I have no idea what the 90s really are, other than baggy pants and I think Ricky Martin. Because what I remember in high school in the 90s, it was, as we approached the year 2000, there was this big thing about celebrating all the different decades of the 20th century. So we had 80s week, and then 70s week, and then 20s week, and then 30s week. And so it almost felt like the 90s were a century in review. So it was like a mishmash of everything. And there was a period, I remember there was a couple of years where all the girls were wearing bell-bottoms and tie-dye, and like they were suddenly, dressing like 60s chicks. And so I have no idea. I don't know what the 90s are, other than possibly the best, the height of American power. That appears to be the 90s. The 90s, guys, the 90s. We peaked in the 1990s was our peak. Do you understand that? The 1990s was our peak. The 90s was our peak. Demolition Man and escaped from L.A. That was the pinnacle of America. And I had a history teacher in high school who kind of called it and said, "Yeah, there's only one place to go down. There's only one place to go, and it's down. We're on top. It's going to go down." And he predicted everything. The fall of the economy and the rise of extremism and the country starting to fall apart. That it was going to start in the middle of the country. I mean, it really, he called it. He called it. Sorry for getting depressing. Sorry for getting depressing, guys. But that's where my mind is at right now. And then there's that whole notion of, should I be even trying to be in a relationship, which my plan is, if I meet someone, I meet someone. If I don't meet someone, I don't meet someone. And that's the plan. The only people I really talk to are other comedians, and I don't want to be in a relationship with other comedians because I know comedians, and that's, I'm a comedian. I don't need more of that. And I don't think the other comedian needs more of that either. I'm always amazed when comedians get together in a relationship. And you know what? If it works for them, great. But I think that a comedian needs to be with the exact opposite of a comedian, which I don't even know what that is. I feel like that's like a left-brained like scientist or mathematician or something, an accountant. That's the right pairing. The accountant, now someone can make the accountant laugh and add some spice to the accountant's life, and the comedian in exchange gets a place to sleep. The comedian gets room and board, basically. So I think it's an equitable arrangement. So that's what I need to. I need to find an accountant. I need to find a nice accountant. I'd love it if I got with a doctor, but the doctor would hate me because I would just be asking the doctor everything about my body. What about this? What about that? My God, that would be amazing to be with a doctor. That fundamentally amazing, but also terrifying because then I'd be afraid the doctor would bring something home and I'd get sick and it would be it wouldn't work. More so for the doctor than for me. So that's not going to work. What about a lawyer? Now there's a thought. A lawyer. That might be good. There's some similarities, I think. Having to speak in front of people. Although if a lawyer's getting laughs, that might not be necessarily the best thing, depending on why they're laughing at the like, really? That's your defense? I could get some legal counsel. Yeah, this might be... that might be the way to go, my friends. That might be the way to go. But, lawyer, I don't know. I mean, probably not another person who, I was about to say artist, not to say that I'm an artist. I don't like that term, but, like an artsy-fartsy type or a more of a, math science type. Can I tell you, I do have a fantasy of falling in love with an astrophysicist who figures out a way to travel faster than the speed of light and accidentally gets thrown halfway across the universe, but our love keeps us connected somehow, and we use our love to bring her back. That's one of my romantic fantasies, which is like a movie, like a sci-fi drama that Jennifer Lawrence would star in. That's exactly what that is. It would be Jennifer Lawrence and Ryan Gosling. That's my fantasy. It's a movie that might be Oscar bait, but just It just barely misses being Oscar bait. Well, there you go. You found out about one of my fantasies. Isn't that nice? Isn't that something? Oh, speaking of fantasies, I've always wanted to be the damsel in distress in a kung fu movie. And the lady is like the lead, and she's the martial arts expert, and I'm the one who is tied to the train tracks. There's something about that I find very intriguing. And you know, it would be great. We'd have a great life because she'd be, you know, doing the hours of training, and I would do like my 5 minutes of Tai Chi that I remember from college. And I think we'd really go well together. I'd bring a nice balance. My lack of balance would help keep her balanced. My neuroses would give her something to focus on, something outside of herself, so she could remain centered. Or even if she was not centered, she could spend 5 minutes with me and realize, even when I'm not centered, I'm centered compared to this guy. So that's another fantasy I've had. There's the World War II fantasy. That's where I'm injured, but I'm nursed back to health by a beautiful Italian woman on a farm, and then I gradually get better, and we fall in love, and I end up just working the farm. And I never really learned the language, and I'm silent. And then my child eventually learns English, and I finally tell my child the story of what happened in the war, and it's very traumatic. These are my fantasies. I have too much time. I have too much time on my hands. I am not talking to enough people. When the fantasies get this specific, when every single fantasy I have is pretty much a bad romance novel, I should be writing these down and getting paid at least. May as well. Work the farm. You kidding me? I can't handle situations where wood is unfinished. I inevitably get a splinter. Yeah, I don't think that farm thing is going to happen. I can't believe I shared that. I can't believe I shared that. Yeah, it is better to do this podcast when I'm not driving. I can focus more on the podcast. And when I'm driving, I can focus more on the road. Better for all parties involved, my friends. My life right now is standing next to space heaters or sitting next to space heaters, whether it's at work or at home. That is my life. I plan wherever I'm going, is there a space heater there? And then I will stand next to it. I am a cyborg in that I have absorbed technology into my life. I use technology. The space heater is practically a piece of wearable tech at this point. I should just have it on as a backpack. I mean, it would be very easy to assimilate me into the Borg collective. You will be assimilated. You're telling me that I get internal heating and free Wi-Fi forever? Yeah, that's fine. The collective makes the decisions? That sounds like more of a democracy than whatever the hell we're in. I'm on board. Let's do it. Let's Borg it. I hate to say it, but the farther along we get, the more the Borg is sounding like A, what we're kind of becoming, and B, kind of the way to go. All right, guys. I'll be back on Thursday with more thoughts. Back on Thursday with more thoughts.